Right, today's top picks from Reuters Breakingviews, learning from their mistakes, why the BBC is a lesson in bad crisis management, and how the city cull is adding to the London house price bubble. So two UK stories for you this morning. Chris Hughes joins me now. Chris, before we delve into this BBC story, I know Hugo Dixon feels quite strongly about this. Let's just have a listen to George Entwistle, the Director General, hear what he had to say when he resigned.
In light of the fact that the Director General is also the Editor-in-Chief and ultimately responsible for all content, and in light of the unacceptable journalistic standards of the Newsnight film broadcast on Friday 2nd November, I have decided that the honourable thing to do is to step down from the post of Director General.
Now, he touched on one of the problems that Hugo has highlighted, and that which is written into the Royal Charter, and that is one person acting as both the DG and the Editor-in-Chief. Why do they still do it like that? Well, clearly the DG hasn't got time to be Editor-in-Chief.
I mean, that is the way that the BBC has evolved. They say it's a big problem when you have a crisis. You know, George Entwistle had this role both as Director General of the BBC and also Editor-in-Chief, and actually, you know, he had crises on both fronts to manage. As DG, he was having to sort out this problem with the Jimmy Savile affair. This presenter who's now late presenter, now engulfed in allegations of sex abuse, and then the same similar problem arises, but on the journalistic side, with these questions over how Newsnight, flagship news organisation, handled a programme on similar subject, which then subsequently led to
the resignation. But I think that the problem here, and the problem we're talking about, is how all this can get by the Director General, who's supposed to be the Editor-in-Chief. I mean, clearly he was unaware of this. Clearly that Royal Charter needs to be looked at, and clearly they need to use this opportunity to force through change.
Well, I think that it's simplifying it a bit to say, oh, it's all to do. The problem here is all to do with the Charter. The problem here is really about the organisation and governance and culture of a big organisation. So there are lessons here, even though the BBC is a publicly funded body, largely, there are lessons here for big organisations and for the leaders of those organisations in how you preempt a crisis and manage a crisis when it comes. Now, clearly, the problems that we can now see are, you know, too much wrapped up in this DG role, the combination of the Director General role with the Editor-in-Chief role. That doesn't look wise. But also, there are cultural questions here and organisational questions in why weren't people escalating to Mr. Entwistle? Why weren't those around him giving him more support, telling him what was going on, making him aware of the urgency? Now, I think that he said, well, look, you know, I wait for people to make me aware of things. Well, if you're going to have that policy, and clearly he can't be on top of everything in such a big organisation, then you need to make sure you've got good people and they're accountable for letting you know. Now, clearly, that wasn't the case. So it's not just about the BBC's charter, it's about the whole culture and the way the organisation is constructed. It's about the excess of responsibility within that senior role. You know, I think that, you know, if you're thinking about you know, how a PLC would handle it, they'd be asking very similar questions about if they had a crisis. You know, are we structured properly? Were people feeding information up to the board as they should have been? You know, the parallels, you know, are quite striking.
Yep, okay. Let's have a quick word on the London house price bubble risk. Your columnist George Hay is saying basically the safe haven status itself of the London property market is at risk because of the cull.
Well, not quite. I mean, the bizarre thing about the prime London market, London residential property market, is it keeps on sucking in international money. I mean, the global super rich like putting their money in, maybe only parking their money in London property. Now, this phenomenon just keeps on, you know, keeps on going. I mean, who knows when it will end? Maybe it will never end. Maybe, you know, we'll keep on seeing these fantastic double-digit returns from prime London property, you know, as far as you can see. The trouble is, if something changes, if that international money finds another attractive safe haven asset, and you can see why that might happen, because actually there might be a bit of push out of the UK if there's a mansion tax which keeps on being talked about. We've already seen taxes go up in terms of stamp duty on getting into London property, so it's getting quite expensive to park your money there. If that money goes elsewhere, what is left to keep the market up? Well, if you look at the city job market is appalling. Rent, and that's evident in low rents. So there's no real fundamental support at these levels.
Okay, Chris, I'm going to have to stop you there. Thanks very much indeed for that. Chris Hughes from Breaking Views. For more agenda-setting insight, watch the US show every day, 12:30 Eastern, 17:30 BST. I'm Axel Throttle. This is Reuters.